Hobi is back. JIN has a new, very rock pop sounding song that is going to be coming out shortly. And because I came across a Twitter thread and it was talking about armies wanting a Cipher 5 in relation to so much of the recent controversy and events that have been unfolding. And I had a lot of thoughts about that. So this is kind of another unscripted BTS podcast. So let's go. Hi, I'm Monique. I am the host of Off by Purple Heart podcast, where I talk to you about K-dramas, C-dramas, BTS, and so much more. And the so much more and BTS are going to kind of entangle. I just have to start off with the very obvious news that Hobi is back. I am so happy that Tusuk was able to reunite. JIN was there for Hobi as he was being discharged, got him flowers. He was there along with press right up there. He was quite the gentleman, got one of those journalists off from kneeling on the ground and was right up in there with the mics, and he looked suave as all hell in his nice burgundy suit, and he's just been on that promotional kick right now. I've seen a couple of shows that have popped up that are going to be featuring JIN very shortly as well. So, the promotion cycle is definitely gearing up for JIN, and I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm just really happy that Hobi's back. I said I was going to do a specific podcast about Hobi coming back, and I'm really happy that it's already here. To me, October was like it just kind of like a swing and a miss. I can't believe how fast everything kind of just unveiled. It's actually really kind of scary, and I'm just overwhelmed. For one thing, Hobi threw out the first pitch as one of his first promotional activities coming back in the fold. He had his nice, cute little purple gloves. He was in the stadium. They were playing Dynamite at one point. He was doing his little dancey dance. Apparently, for some K-poppies, I think that was a controversial thing because, heaven forbid, if BTS so much as take a deep breath, apparently that is a controversial news tidbit. So there's always something. There's always something. But yes, JIN will be coming out with some new music, and I'm really looking forward to it. We have a teaser already. I'll be there. The teaser that we got was what he calls soda pop, which definitely has some rock influence in there. There's definitely a lot of drums in there. It sounds pretty fresh, and I think it's kind of in the same realm that I anticipated for JIN. He could still pull out a lot of surprises, but I figured he would go the more soft rock type, almost bordering alternative pop realm, even though he was kind of the member that I had the hardest time kind of predicting what their sound exactly would come out to. But I'm looking forward to it, and I'm hoping that on his solo record that there is at least one really beautiful soulful ballad that will give me the exact same feels that the demo version of Epiphany did, or that cover song he did of Saranye or I Love You. That song, that cover is probably one of my favorite recordings ever of JIN, and if I hear even 5 seconds of it, I break down in tears. So I'm really looking forward to him at least giving us one really beautiful power ballad, but we'll see what unfolds. So that's mainly the happy news realm as far as BTS is concerned. But there is the other part of the podcast, which is not going to be very scripted. None of this is scripted. But I came across a Twitter thread, I think a couple of nights ago, and I'll be honest, it kind of triggered me a little bit. There's all these little side conversations that happen on Army Twitter. Yes, I refuse to call it fucking X. And there's just something about Army Twitter in particular. I've said this before, they are the backbone of the fandom. I totally understand that they're extremely vital and they share news probably the fastest out of every social media pocket. So I do have a lot of appreciation for a lot of the armies there, especially the OG ones. But there's a lot of side conversations and infighting and bickering that gets on my last nerve. And there is a particular thread that I think triggered me, and I don't know if it means I need to reflect a little bit more, but it was about the conversation of armies wanting a Cipher 5 from the group. And this is in response to essentially everything that's been playing out with Yoongi and the fact that it's still not fucking over. I actually made a podcast episode about how upsetting I found the whole situation to be and the false equivalencies that a lot of people were making. The way people talked about this e-scooter event, it's still mind-blowing to me, the level of seriousness that this caused and the thousands upon thousands of articles which were made about it, and essentially people wanting Yoongi to be kicked out of the group because of how strongly they felt about this case, which is absolutely ludicrous. And obviously, if you've been paying attention to other army creators that are on YouTube or on other social media pages that report like day-to-day BTS news, you have heard about the death reefs that these lunatics that I'm assuming are antis that have ordered these stupid fucking reefs to be in front of high building and to bring about more shame onto Yoongi in this situation and wanting this situation to take a more fatal turn for him, because I assume by them doing this that they want Yoongi to harm himself. That him apologizing profusely multiple times and having cooperated with the authorities and basically keep himself out of limelight, which he would have anyways because of the term and condition of his particular military service. It's not enough for the netizens, that they have to take it a step further. And it's actually really sickening and gross to me, and especially in light of other idols that have been tortured in the eyes of media right now. Like, there has been a lot of coverage over the K-pop group Rise and their unceremonious dumping of that young man and the level of cruelty that has been wielded to him. This 21-year-old who made the mistake of having a girlfriend, going to a hotel with said girlfriend and smoking, apparently was akin to him being a fucking war criminal, and them making an example out of him as well. And also Jessie as well, you know, for breaking up an altercation between two men, essentially having her career now go up in flames. It's like the repeated offenses that I keep seeing, and not having a lot of the Korean news or the netizens actually turn their eye and put more intensity and focus on literal rapists. And I'm trying to censor some of the words because I know sometimes YouTube will flag certain inflammatory terminology, and I do post this podcast on YouTube. You know, people that are guilty of SA are still able to have contracts, long-standing contracts with these major K-pop companies and be protected for months on end, yet they will completely destroy and annihilate other idols' careers for the most innocuous of offenses. And it's just really gross for me to see play out. And I know this is getting into more of a ramble type thing, but what really pissed me off was not just even seeing all this unfold and the injustice of it all, but in addition, there is talks of a lot of different armies, and I'm pretty sure I even said this passingly in one of my more recent podcast episodes, that, you know, BTS are going to have so much to talk about in regards to what has happened over the course of this year. But, you know, there's armies that have been calling for, you know, a Cipher 5. It's like, oh, I can't wait till the guys are all reunited. They get time to kind of relax, kind of de-escalate, and kind of reacclimate themselves back into modern society after doing these military services. And then once they get back into the full, you know, promotional gig of being all seven together, because Yoongi's staying in the fucking group, that one thing that a lot of armies would look forward to is a Cipher 5 from them. And I wouldn't be opposed to it either. And then I saw this Twitter thread, and this one army individual, and I won't bring up the actual post itself, I won't do that, but they were saying, you know, I find it really weird that armies are wishing for this. Like, why would you want a Cipher 5? Why would you want for them to have to go through all of the trauma they went through this year? Like, don't you know BTS by now? Like, do you really think you can call yourself army by wanting a Cipher 5? Didn't you know that if you knew anything about who Yoongi is now as a person, you know that he wants to step away from his anger, and that he has made great strides as far as his mental health, and he doesn't want to go back to that dark place. So why would you want for them to do Cipher 5? And I'm going to be really honest with you. The whole reason what inspired me to do this podcast is because that actually kind of triggered me. I was actually kind of pissed off reading that. I didn't interact with the post. I tend to not want to start anything, like don't start none, don't get none, you know, on Twitter. But it actually really pissed me off. I was thinking, what the fuck? I'm like, so because we had wishful thinking of wanting a Cipher 5, because we as a fandom, a lot of us in the fandom have been seeing all of this play out over this year, and since the guys have been in the military, and even fucking before they were all enlisted, the amount of anger and vitriol being thrown at them, and then seeing everything play out as it has this year, like, we don't have a right as a fandom to be fucking angry. Like, these are artists that we enjoy. These are artists that we care about. A lot of armies have very personal connections with these group members. And yes, it is parasocial. We do not personally know these men. I get that, yes. But a lot of people have built really strong emotional tethers through their music and have seen just how cruel a lot of the news cycle can be towards them over the most innocuous of things. And I think having a desire for the members to be able to express that, I don't think that somehow indicates that you're not a real army, or somehow you're wanting for them to reopen emotional wounds and wanting them to go through traumatic things. But like, you don't think that the fandom has a right to express that kind of anger? And I'm not saying for us to do destructive things. I actually really love the positive campaigns that I've been seeing on Twitter of army that have flown out from different regions to go to the Hive building and have signs of showing of support and showing enthusiasm for all 7 members returning back for the comeback in 2025 going into 2026. You know, having armies order trucks that have positive imagery saying, hey, we love you guys, we support you guys, and them not purposely being inflammatory or trying to incite violence against, you know, the antis, or, you know, whomever are putting up these really fucked up wreaths, these funeral wreaths, you know. But I don't think the fandom expressing wanting a Cipher 5 is somehow some betrayal as being a fan. And I don't know, I was really taken aback by that. I guess if I was to really sit down and think of it, I guess I understand where that person is initially coming from, in a sense that, yeah, I do know that the guys have talked extensively about their mental health, and they have talked about how they have felt when they have recorded each one of those ciphers. And by the time they got to Cipher 4, it was from a place of healing, which is why the prominent messaging was, I hope you love yourself, to their haters. It's like, you know what? You can keep talking about me. You can keep dragging my name through the mud. At the end of the day, I hope you're able to heal yourself and have a better relationship with yourself, because part of the reason why you spew out so much toxicity towards me is because you have such high levels of judgment and hatred towards yourself. Typically, a lot of hatred that people will spew is an internal projection. So I understand that they came to a place of healing by time Cipher 4 came around. And going forward, yeah, I understand that they want to bring about more positive change and have a healthier relationship with the type of music that they create, and maybe not necessarily want to dip into anger. But that doesn't mean that just because they've moved on to a healthier place emotionally, and that their music has grown from a lot of that anger and bitterness and resentment towards how they were treated. But in regards to everything that's happened this year, that has been really, to me, astronomical, not even proportional in the slightest sense to what actually has occurred, that maybe, just maybe, they might still have like a version of UGG in them still. And I don't know. I was really taken aback by that tweet and the insinuation that somehow made you less of a fan because you were wishing for Cypher 5. And this is kind of the problem I have with Twitter. As much as it's so valuable for information and you can find so much community on there, and there's so many great things there, but I find the little infighting really irksome to me. And there's this really weird competitive level amongst armies, and it's like, well, I'm the better army because I don't do X, Y, and Z, and I don't say X, Y, and Z. I figured as long as you're supporting all 7 guys and you genuinely want the best for them as people and genuinely look forward to their music and you're engaging in healthy ways, that makes you fucking army. Am I mistaken in that? Like, I was really taken aback by it. You could tell, like, I'm not even able to fully coherently express what I want to express, but I just felt like turning on the camera, putting on the mic and doing this because it actually really irritated me. And I kind of sat there with it and I was like, why am I getting so triggered by it? Do I feel guilty by association because I've been someone that has said I want Cypher 5? Like, I want, and if not even a Cypher 5, but I just assumed that in some way, shape, or form, that because these guys talk about actually what goes on in their lives, they are extraordinarily strong songwriters and they pull from their own personal experiences. So I said, you know what? They absolutely are going to have a lot to say. They're going to put some pen to paper. Best believe that. But it's like that person was saying that people were taking joy from the fact that they've gone through so much horrific news cycles this year, that they're completely over that phase and they could never ever dare to express any other emotion other than just positive forward-thinking songs and never tap back into, hey man, this is a thing that happened and it was actually really kind of fucked up and I want to talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, I was really taken aback by that. And I get kind of where the person was coming from. Like, I know Yoongi himself has gone through such a personal journey with his music and he's gone to some really dark places. The last from his first mixtape, definitely in D2 and D3, like, there has been some really dark themes that he has dabbled in. Like, I'm thinking, is it Hansul, that song where his vocals are extremely distorted and it's almost like he's gone through an episode of being inebriated and he was just blurting out some of these most deepest inner demons. But I know that he is on this healing journey and he's made so many great strides, and you can even see it in his interactions with the group and even like in a lot of the content in the later years. Like the Yoongi that we are first introduced to and then the Yoongi that we've seen since like 2020, I think he'd made a lot of amazing strides, particularly as the pandemic has progressed on. I think he has really done an amazing job in cataloging just how much he's been able to triumph through. And I thought, you know, by some armies kind of commiserating with one another and specifically focusing on the Yoongi portion of things and wanting and expressing a desire for Cypher 5, I didn't think that was toxic in any way, shape, or form, or something that needs to be demoralized or something that has to be critiqued. I don't know. I just find there's just little pockets of stuff that happen that just kind of irks me, which is why I'm kind of an outlier in the fandom. I have very few people that I talk to about, you know, army business and stuff, because I find a lot of the attitudes that are embedded, especially in certain pockets of Twitter, just gets on my last nerve. And it just, I don't know, it irked me and I just felt like talking about it. I'm of the position, as long as the guys are happy, as long as they're okay, whatever music that they feel compelled to make, I'm along for the ride, you know? I would love for them just to explore more different genres. I absolutely want a Dark and Wild revisit. One of my favorite albums from the discography of BTS is Dark and Wild. And I know that came from a place of a lot of heavy emotion, and Wings as well, not only the music but the visuals, and that also came from a very heavy place. And there was a lot of things going on with the members individually that came about with some brilliant music. But I even mentioned this in my podcast about like the potential Grammy wins I think could possibly happen if the Grammys weren't completely biased and prejudiced. That I don't celebrate them going through trauma, but there has been darker periods in their entire musical trajectory that has brought about some incredible artwork that I've showed admiration to, and Wings is definitely one of that too. So if you understood anything that was going on in this podcast, bless your heart. Thank you for sticking it out and listening to me kind of ramble. I just had to get that off my chest. If you're watching via YouTube, let me know your commentary down below. Like, do you agree with that army? Like, is it really that bad of a thing to have expressed interest in potentially BTS doing a Cypher 5? I guess I kind of know where they're coming from, but the way it was worded, it was just really snarky, and it was just really off-putting. Let me put it that way. How are you excited for JIN's new single? Did you think it was going to sound like that? Like I'm actually really not that surprised. Like I feel that him and Coldplay collaborating absolutely made so much sense, because to me Coldplay and their musical trajectory really matches up to what I think JIN would align with, even though JIN to me was the biggest question mark on whose album's gonna sound like what. I think JIN had the biggest question mark, but I was leaning towards the more pop rock era. You know, how are you finding Hobi back? I feel like he's already tapped into that Hobi Sunshine type aura that he has. Like, just even see him doing a little dancey dance to Dynamite in the baseball stadium was really cute. If you're listening to this podcast via Spotify or Apple Podcasts, I love you. I appreciate you as well so much. Until the next podcast, which is hopefully going to be a lot more not discombobulated like this.